Right. So we have this data set, and from our principles of data analysis, the first step is that you want to understand your data. And we see this says it carries about 50%. So it's advisable to spend as much time as possible really understanding what you are working with. Because when you understand what you're working with and the question you are being asked to solve, then creating the plan forward, moving the job forward becomes easier because then you understand what you're doing. But if you don't understand, then that's you wouldn't really know where to start from. So that's why there's emphasis on we have to know our data. And the best way to know and understand your data is to interact with it. Okay. So we have this table before us. We have the first part. It says ID. Okay, the first column, the ID, and it's just numbers that represent ID. Then we have this next one that says summary. Okay, and if we look through the summary, we have things like review 18 January 2023, 88% complete, something, something, it goes on. Okay, the list goes on. So access to data, different different things are summarized under access to data. Release email from quarantine, release Outlook quarantine emails, release quarantine emails, okay? Release trend email, release trend. So it keeps going on and on. I still can't make sense of what this is about, okay? But if we look here, we can see there's something that actually helps better. I see faulty laptop, extend use of account expired, advanced information required, advice on Citrix and Outlook, application setup. So it's sort of giving me a bit of information into something to do with IT. Okay. Do you feel like that this part, what sort of flavor are you getting from this summary when you see faulty laptop, extend use of account, advanced information required, and so on and so forth as we have here? What would come to your mind when you see stuff like that within a data set? You can unmute and talk because I wouldn't really know if anyone's hands up.
Is it something to do with access to either the systems or like a place, a location, something?
Yeah. So we see access to account, we see application setup. When you see emails in quarantine, when you see things like this, I am thinking it's got something to do with the IT department of an organization, because they are the ones that will deal with if your laptop is faulty, you take it to them, you know, things to do with application setup, you know, you having access to certain apps that you need for your laptop at work, okay? Needs temp defender token, okay? Emails in quarantine, missing blue badge application, okay. So at least we get a bit of insight, not too much. So if we carry on, because I think we got stuck on just the second column there, and there's quite a lot more columns that can help us. Okay, then I see status, and it's just closed and resolved. Okay, okay. Then we see the response, 1 day, 237, 1 day SLA. Okay, major incident, priority, password reset. Okay, it's still hinting to maybe these were the tickets that were raised for some IT department from different people. Okay. This is just the dates that those complaints were logged, I believe. Okay. Then this is resolved service. Resolved, the service that was resolved. The first one we can see here, it says Outlook, email, Wi-Fi network. You know, these were the things that were resolved from these summaries. Then we have known error. Okay, maybe whatever errors came up while the summary, you know, while the problem was being tackled. We see authentication failure, batteries not running, battery not holding charge, has to do with some computer, block email address. Okay, so that's to do with a worker, someone whose email got blocked and IT had to resolve it for them. That's the way I would think that through. Blue screening, broken parts require replacing, and so on and so forth. Okay, so far I can see that this data set is telling us that there were problems that were raised. It's got to do with computing, both software and hardware, because we see that there are parts of computers and there are emails and applications that are raised, issues with them that are raised within the summary. We see that there is status whether the query was solved or resolved or closed. We see that something was logged. These complaints were logged in during these dates. Okay, we see the kind of services that were resolved within this. This has to do with Outlook, which is email. This second one had to do with Wi-Fi or network. The next two are to do with the device, okay, and so on and so forth. And we see known error column there, write-ups. So there's a write-up column. It says released email from quarantine. Okay, so whatever resolution was done, there were some write-up that was done by whoever resolved it. Okay, these first ones now, they are saying that they released the person's email from quarantine. Maybe the email was hacked into and they had to resolve it for them. Who knows? Advice or guidance provided for this person. Okay, whatever was done here falls under other. Account use was extended for this one. Maybe the account got suspended and now it's been extended that they can use it. Maybe it got closed. Advice or guidance provided for this person. So the kind of resolution that was done, comments that were put there is what this is about. Okay, now we see the people who resolved these issues, resolution person, and we see their names there and the team that they belong to. Now we can see customer service desk, CS service desk. So I think that's customer service digital. We see customer service desktop support. So different teams, you know, within that, the date that it was resolved, the time that it was resolved, the day. Okay, these are all work that has been done on these were not, I'm sure these were not part of the original work, and this as well. I'm sure these were, so I'm going to hide them so that they don't disturb us for now. And then we see incident category. Okay, the different categories that the incidents belong to. Okay, customer service change, incident tickets, lever, name change. Okay, so the categories that the incidents raised in the summary that they belong to. The source, where they came from. Web manual. Is there any more than web manual under here? Yeah. So we see web manual, email, and so on. Resolution target. Okay, this has to do with dates as well. They set target for when their issues are resolved. Okay, clients. Okay, so the clients that were involved when it was closed by, who, okay, actually these are names, so who it was closed by, the ticket was closed by who, the infrastructure. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, the amount of time that was spent on these tickets. Okay, now we see that these were all tickets that were raised concerning issues that people have, you know, on their on their on different IT related uh, aspects of work. Okay, this hours spent on tickets. So now the hours that were spent range from less than 1 hour to as much as over 1,000. Get some water to drink. Now, to as much as yeah, over 1,000 hours that some tickets, you know, spent on there before they got resolved. And here we have in/out SLA, whatever that means. If it's inside or outside of whatever they call SLA. Now, this is company specific, so it's good to go ask them, what does SLA mean? Okay. Number of users that were affected by the problem that was being resolved. We see that number of hours that the people could not use their service for. Okay, we see that there as well. And resolution notes. Okay, a few notes that were put by those who resolved this. Normal hour or overtime. Okay, I think this would be around, if whoever resolved it within the work hour, or if it became an overtime for them. And then logged the work week that these complaints were logged. We have it there. So with everything, you see, with that took a very long, quite a bit of our time, okay, to get to the end of it. Sometimes you will have more columns and a lot of rows to deal with than what we are currently having. Let's see. Okay. So we have about 53,000 rows, thereabout, over 53,000 rows of data here that we have to work with. Okay. Now, quick question, and I want everyone to let me know, so that I know that we now understand this practice of trying to understand your data. How would you describe what is going on in this data set? What's your understanding of it? Am I still in class?
Yes, you are in class. For me, I
Okay.
think I'm lost.
You are lost. Okay. What are you? What's lost in you on this one? Where are
I
you?
actually get the explanation you did, how we break down every column to see what the data is about. But the question you just asked, I think I'm lost on that.
Okay. And the question is that, what is your understanding of what we have just looked at? You see that we've just tried to look at each of the columns here in this within this data set, so that we can make sense of what it's about. What is this data set telling us? Like, if you were to put this, what you've seen so far, in a sentence, how would you describe this data set? I think that's a better way to ask that question. How would you describe what this data set is about?
Okay, I can say it should be a yearly departmental data slip of a company.
Right. Data slip. When you say data slip, how do you mean?
I mean data log, right? Rather.
Okay. And the data log, what kind of data is being logged here? Okay.
That's work data.
What kind of work has been described as done here? What kind of work would you say has been done? If I say that, okay, the summary of the work I'm being given is that there is a request for advice on mobile tethering, or if I say that there's something that has been logged and it's faulty laptop, what sort of work would faulty laptop or faulty email or faulty application fall under?
IT?
That would be IT.
IT, thank you. Yes, it's IT. Okay, we can see the ID of each of the logs. We can see that they summarize that, okay, this one has faulty laptop. This one says they need extend use of account. They need their account expired and they need it to be extended. It would always be IT that you would need, you will go to for such. Okay, this one say amend user detail. I remember when I first started at my current job, the way they had my name around, it was, how did they even have my name? It was, I think first name was last name was first name, something like that. Okay, so if I was to raise a complaint to IT to change that around for me, it would be that they should have amend my user detail to read the right way. Okay, and here this one is saying they need the application setup, okay, or access to a particular application, because you will discover that on your work laptop you can't just download anything anyhow. Everything has to go through the IT route, admin IT. You always have, they will say raise a ticket for it, raise a ticket for it. These are all of these are tickets that have been raised for different issues that people had, and it's being raised with IT, because everything I see here is pointing towards IT. Either it's software or hardware. Either it's the laptop itself that's malfunctioning, or it's different softwares like Outlook, the email that is used, or some applications that they need access to. When I was starting, just to download Power BI desktop, I couldn't. It had to be that they registered, IT did it, blah, blah, blah. And anytime I need some updates on it, chances are that I would need to go through IT before I can actually do that. Okay, so that is what that is about. So you spend a bit of time to actually, I mean, you may need to do it more than once. You may need to look through everything again and again and again and again until you get it. Okay, so I'll still ask that question, that in one simple sentence, what would be your description of this data that we are looking at?
So I would say it's a data specifically from an IT department of a company, summarizing or that shows every problem relative to like computer usage, user accounts of the employees of that company specifically.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, and if you want to even go by dates, you can say within 2022 to 2023, you know, you can say that this data set shows us issues that were logged with IT in a particular organization between 2022 and 2023. Okay, that's a short summary of this. Okay, of course, we can see that it shows us if the issue is closed or if it was resolved. Okay, it shows us when it was resolved or closed, by whom it was resolved or closed. Okay, it shows us all of that, you know, and the different write-ups on what was done. You know, after they have resolved whatever they did with you, whatever exactly they asked you to do, then I believe they go back to write, okay, I was able to guide this person to use the right form, you know, to apply for whatever it was they needed to apply for. Okay, and if it's that they need something needs reconfiguring, yeah, somebody put there that this was reconfigured for them. This one says customer resolved. Okay, this one says access granted, which means the person asked for a kind of access. This one had problem with their password, so now the password has been reset for them, and so on and so forth. Okay, so it shows between 2023, the issues or tickets that were raised with it for IT, you know, within an organization in the years 2022 and 2023, and how they were resolved, how or if they were resolved. That's all it is. So does the art of understanding your data, do you sort of understand it more now? How to go about trying to interact with the data with the view of understanding it? Do you think it's something you'll be able to do more of now with any kind of data sets that you find yourself looking at? Yes or no?
Yes, I think she'd be able to understand it now.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's just a matter of, you know, looking through each columns and then trying to put them together, and where you can, try and make a sentence of it in a summary in your head. I mean, all of what we are doing now is all part of your work. It's like your own working out. You know, when you are solving a maths equation, all you need to present is the answer. How you arrived at it, that's your own like rough work that you have in your own space. Nobody wants to see that. Okay, all they want to see is a finished product. They just want to see that you have done the work and it is good work. So this part of things, this is just you making life easy for yourself and ensuring that you actually know what you are doing. Okay, so I think I'll move us off understanding data now. I believe we have done a little bit of exercise. This data was a bit complicated, which I like. It's not your usual sales data. We looked at sales data yesterday, you see, where you can easily see customers table, you can see employees table. This time we have everything within a data set. So, and it's quite mind-numbing the way it is, which is good. It gave us a little bit of tough time, but I believe we got there in the end. Okay.
But I have a
So
question.
yes, please.
Considering like yesterday we talked about fact tables and then dimension tables. So if we were to like pinpoint fact table versus dimension table from like this data, which is
Yeah.
like different we get with yesterday, what would they look like?
Okay, that's a very good one. I was gonna move us off and not really refer to that just yet, but I think it is good exercise. Okay, because sometimes you see, you are given just one entity data set. Okay, ignore this. This is not part of the data. Okay, it's just, let me hide it for now. It's just the question that you'll be answering on this data set. So if you look at the data set, look at the bottom here where you have the tabs. It's just one tab. It's just the one table. So we call this type of table, with this type of data rather, one entity data set. Entity is another name for table or single entity data set. Okay, chances are that you will be working with multi-entity data set, that is more than one. Okay, but sometimes you are given one and everything is just thrown into it like that, like this one now. It is not good practice to just load this into Power BI and just work off just the one table. Okay, so this is where you want to look into the data, into this, and bring out your dimensions. Okay, you look through which columns are going to represent my dimensions within this data set. The whole of this data set itself is facts. It's a fact table, the whole of it. But within a fact table, we can bring out dimension tables. Okay, so before because what the question you asked is going to be, that is the class that's going to answer it. Okay, but before we answer it, I'm just going to throw a bit more light, you know, on sorry, I wanted to close those, not show you. Okay, now, before we answer the question that you just asked now, I wanted to throw a bit more light on fact table and dimension table. I was asking ChatGPT earlier, just a few minutes before class, I said, how do I explain the concept of fact or transactional table and dimension or lookup table in data to a layman, like to a 5-year-old? I wanted it to really put it in very simple terms, you know, not complicate things for us. Okay, and this is what it's come up with. Okay, now let's do this exercise together. Saying, think of a supermarket. Okay, so now let's imagine a supermarket in our heads now. Imagine a supermarket where people buy groceries every day. The store keeps records for all purchases. Okay, now fact table, which is the same as transactional table, is your sales record. Okay, it says this is like a receipt that contains every sale transaction. Each row represents one sale and includes details like the date that the purchase was done, the product that was bought, customer that bought it, how much they bought, the price they paid, the total amount. Okay, that is what a fact table would look like. Okay, let me see. Okay, I thought this was gonna show me for anything further. What's this? Okay, no. All right. Okay, so that's an example of a fact table that's generated within a supermarket now. Okay, and then see what it's telling us about the dimension. It says these records keep growing as more sales happen. That's the fact table. It will keep growing. The more sales that you generate, the more the fact table will grow. But for the dimension, it says dimension table, which is the same as lookup table, the reference information. Now it's saying that this is like a catalog or reference book that stores detailed information about things in the fact table. So this dimension is going to store information about the things that you see here on the fact table. Okay, we go further to look at it. It says, example, a product table. It will just contain product name, the category of the products, and maybe the unit price that each product is sold for. Okay, that's it. And you know that we have products as well in the fact table. The product that was bought, it will show in the fact table for every order that was placed. But as a dimension, we will only have it on the product table for information where we know, okay, this is a beverage, example of a beverage now. We have products, the product name is, let's say, a Bonvita, okay? So the product's name is Bonvita. It belongs to the category of beverages, and it's sold for £5 per one. Each one is sold for £5. That's the type of information you will find on this products table, which is a dimension table. The same goes for customers table. The customers table we have, it will store the customer's name, the address, maybe the age group, okay? Maybe the country that they live in, which is part of the address anyway, maybe their mobile number or contact number, maybe their email addresses as well. Things like that is what you will have for customers. And then we have a dates table, which stores, it just stores the dates in terms of dates, year, month, week number, okay, the quarter, that's which if it's Q1 or Q2, okay. So each one of these are dimension tables, but they actually reference the fact table, because in the fact table you can see that there's a date, there's product, there's customer. But the fact table is looking at things from the point of the quantity, the point of view of how much of this was bought by who, what quantities have been bought of certain products at what time. Okay, we can see at what time, what was bought, who bought it, how much did they buy rather, what price did we give to them, and the total amount that they paid. Okay, so fact table is dealing with the quantity of money that we are making here, while the dimension table is just giving us description of the things that our business is about. Product is part of our business. It describes it here for us in different ways. The customers are part of our business. It describes them, give us more details about them. Date table is part of the business because we deal in terms of time as well. So this stores more details, about the time that we have stored our data for. Okay, now it says, how do they work together? When you analyze sales, you don't need to store much product details in every transaction. Just the product ID from the products table. This makes data storage efficient and easier to analyze. Okay, and let me bring that home for us. So let's say in your fact table now, you have dates. Okay, now you just have the data 1st of March 2025, and that's it. Okay, there's no need within this table now. There's no need to have month is March, year is 2025, day is first day of March. No, you just have the one date, 1st of March 2025, and that will do. And when it comes to the products, instead of having every detail of the products in your fact table, it can be recognized by just the product ID. So if Bonvita was bought, and Bonvita is the ID for Bonvita in our database is B1, all you will see here is just B1. Now, if I want to then know what is B1, All I need to do is go into the dimension table, this product table, and find further details for B1 there. The customer who bought it on here, it can be represented by just the customer ID of that person on this table. But the rest of their name, their contact details, their age, everything else is found within the customer's table. And that is how we are able to, when we get to data modeling, we now start to form a relationship between the product table and the customer's table. The product table and the fact table. The customer's table will also relate to the fact table. Date table will also relate to the fact table. I think all of this will be best explained when we actually, get to see how it's done. Okay. So, but that's how all these tables, both fact table and dimensions, that's how they work together. And it is done this way just to make storage more efficient and easier for you to do your work as a data analyst. Okay. And I instead of just using sales data, because we are really used to sales data, I've gone on to ask it to give me examples of fact table and dimension table from 5 different industries. Okay. So within retail, I won't go over this because we've done something on sales already. Retail is sales. So, but for healthcare, look at what is brought. It says for healthcare, this is the type of information you would find on healthcare industry data. Maybe the visit ID, then the patient ID, then the doctor's ID, the doctor that attended to the patient, the date of visit, then the diagnosis ID, and the cost of the treatment. So now we see money. There's a cost to the treatment. Okay, that's what their fact table would look like. But the dimension table will be what will store. You see, instead of just patient ID that we see here, the dimension table will have the patient ID as well as every other details that we need to have on that patient. Then, because you have patient ID here, and you also have patient ID on the dimension table, the two tables, this and this patient table, they will be able to communicate with each other using the patient ID. Patient ID is present here. It's also present here. So we join the two tables based on the patient ID, that's the column that is present in both of them. The same goes for doctor. Doctor ID here. We join those two as well. The diagnosis details we can find here. Diagnosis, disease name, the severity of the disease. Now, all we just need is to have the ID in our fact table, and then we can use the diagnosis, the ID, to join to this. So each of these tables, each of these dimension tables will all be joined differently onto this table. And each of them would communicate with this table using their different IDs that we see there. Okay, when we get into Power BI, you would even see that even more, even better. And very quickly, the banking industry is describing what a fact table would look like for banking. Okay, in banking, we have transaction ID, customer ID, account ID, the transaction type, whether it's deposit, withdrawal, transfer, the amount, and the transaction dates. But on their dimension table, you have a table that has the customer's details. Okay, so customer's table and fact table would communicate with each other using the customer ID, because customer ID is present here. Customer ID is also present here. The same goes for accounts. Okay, the same goes for the transaction type and the dates as well. Okay, so that's how it would look like in summary for the banking industry. And for the manufacturing industry, this is what you would have. Okay, manufacturing, order ID, product ID, factory, employee ID, units that were produced, production cost, date of production. Okay, And in the same way that we have seen it earlier, we can see that we will have products table where you have all the details of the product, factory table where you have all the factory details and the manager and capacity. Then you have employee table, and of course, date is always present. So we have the date table. Last but not the least, it's giving us education industry as well. Okay, so what does the fact table look like for education industry? We have enrollment ID, you know, for the students, student ID, course ID, professor that's teaching them, the ID, the semester, the grade. Okay, so this is not monetary now, okay, but that is what it looks like for them. And now we have student dimension, so the student table that have the details of the students' course, the different courses is captured here. The professors, their names are captured here, the details are captured here. Semesters, you know, ID for semester, start date, end date, if it's semester 1, semester 2, semester 3, whatever, okay, you will be recorded there as well. And all of these tables will be joined to this table, communicating with it in the type of, in data modeling, when we start to model our data, okay? And now these structures, we do it like this and not just load a flat table, because this is just a flat table that has everything in it, okay? So we prefer to do it like this for this reason. It says this structure allows businesses to store efficient, structured, and analyzable data for reporting and insights. Okay, does that make sense? Do the examples that we have seen so far, do they make sense?
Yes, they make sense.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Please go for it.
All right, still under the understanding your data.
Yeah.
Now, this presence data we are dealing with is already arranged, at least. So let's say I'm getting a data in a very, very raw form, and I am to understand before, in fact, understanding it would help in arranging it better the way it should be on the data, like on our software. So what are the things that we look forward to that would help in understanding the data that has not been arranged, the raw data?
Right. Raw data would be, give an example of raw data. Let's have an example of raw data. Would it be something like comments from a comment section of your company's social media page? Would it be something like that?
Okay, I think let's work with what we have here. Just let's assume this data we have right now is not arranged in this order.
Okay. So when you say it's not arranged in this order, I'm trying to understand the question well. In what way would it, you mean it's not in tables and rows like this?
Yes, not in table and rows.
I'm looking at the possibility of you getting data that you need to work with not being in rows and tables, and the chances are very, very slim. Now, if this is not in rows and columns like this, let's say you have all of the IDs as the top row, just like that, and then the next row they put up. So let's say you have all of IDs. just all in one row. And the next row is where summary is starting from. And the next row after that is where status is starting from. And the next row after that is where responsibility or response is starting from, you know, such that they are all just in rows and there's nothing like, it's all been put out like this for you. That's what you mean. Does that paint a picture of what you mean by
Yes,
unorganized?
yes.
It does, okay. Okay, so in that case, there will be need for you to look for a way to get it into this stage where it's in rows and columns. So that is extra work on you. Okay, so now when you get something like that, what I would normally do is I want to study the pattern of what I have in front of me. Okay, so if all of these different columns, instead of in columns, they are all in rows, and which would mean that right now, how many rows is this one presenting me with? Let's see. So right now I have 53,334. So we are saying that if all of what we have, all of ID gets to this point, and then only God knows what happened. And then the next row is where summary is starting from. Then summary is coming here, is on the next one to the next 53,300 and something. And then status is the next one. And then that is the next one. So this is where they will say, my people will say that when you are faced with eating hot yam, you have very, very hot yam, you must not rush it. You will balance well because you are about to embark on a journey that is hard, that is not for the weak-hearted. Okay, but there's something you would leverage on. Okay, realistically, that wouldn't happen. What we just described now wouldn't happen. But let's say it happens. Now, before you can work with such a data set, you see the way we have number one, ID. When the next one is going to start, it must also have summary on that next row before all of this starts. When all of the status have been lined up in those rows, the third one, this status must be part of what you have. The headers basically must precede before each of these rows are piled up against each other. Then I will say that, yes, you now have a good chance. Okay. Now, until you are skilled well, a problem like that, I will take it through Power Query. I wouldn't want to do it within just Excel. I will load it into Power Query, even inside Excel, and look for every manipulation I can do on it to get it to the stage where it is in this kind of form. If I have time tomorrow, I can try and represent what you just described. Oh, not tomorrow. We don't have class tomorrow. Maybe Monday. I can try and merge like maybe 3 or 4. Yeah, 3 or 4 of these, the way that you have just described it, into rows, and then bring it to class for us to see how possible it is to bring it to the point where we will have it as column and rows before we can analyze, because arguably you have to have it in this format for analysis to be easily done. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, very quickly, in 1 or 2 minutes, to the question that Mr. Ahmed raised on how do we know from this table that we are given, how do we know the dimension? How do we know the dimension? Now that we know that dimension is describing the things They are descriptive of what you have in your fact table. Look through this and tell me which one of these columns are descriptive. Which of these, any column you see here that is descriptive of the whole setup, then that is a dimension. So what I will do is send this to us as homework. And the question would be that we would need to figure which of these columns are going to be our dimension if we were to work on this, which list out all the columns that you would have as dimensions. That's going to be our take-home work, which we'll bring back on Monday. I think that would also help us to understand better what we mean by dimension and dimension within the dimensions within a fact table. Would that be okay for us?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'll send this to the data group, which I believe we are all there, and I will put the recordings so far together as well and drop them on there drop the links on there for us. Any question apart from any question from what we've done today, apart from the one that I've suspended, the one Mr. Fidelis asked? We'll like I said, I'll make it practical. We'll have it unstructured and see if we are going to be able to structurize it in the way that it would be usable. Okay, so that would be my homework. My homework would be to go and get some of the columns here unstructured and come and show us in class how to solve that sort of problem if we come across it. Now, yours would be to look into this data and fish out all of the dimension columns that you could actually get from here. Okay, are we clear on what we are doing?
Yes, we are. Thank you so much. You
are welcome. Please, if you're not clear on what the assignment is, let me know. Because it's going to be a long weekend. We got Friday, Saturday, Sunday before Monday. So I would expect every one of us to attempt this, please. Okay, so that I know how we are doing before we move on to something else. On this note, it's 5 minutes past. Apologies. Let me stop recording.